Hello everyone, my name is Sachin Bhandari and you're watching the Storyco's YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to narrate the story of where WeWork comes from. Yes, a lot of us have worked in WeWork offices, but it'll be interesting to know where the concept comes from, how it developed, etc. But also at the same time, I'm going to narrate something that is really interesting and important marketing asset that any startup can have, and that is the origin story. Yes, so back in 2019, I used to work from a WeWork office. I was consulting with a company, and the marketing head of that company told me, if you're working at WeWork, Sachin, you're getting noticed, yaar. And that is the kind of brand that WeWork had built in a fairly short period of time. Everybody wanted to be there, and it was definitely an aspirational brand. I used to find it a bit difficult to get work done in a WeWork office because there's just so much happening, so much going around that it was difficult to focus. But having said that, I totally agree that a WeWork office is an extremely seductive one. But after that, as you know, in 2019, the co-founder or the founder of the brand, Adam Neuman, because of whose charisma and communication skills, the brand got the stratospheric valuation of 47 billion US dollars, also faced a downfall or witnessed its own downfall because of Adam Neuman's narcissism. I think I can call it that. Now, what's interesting is that when I used to look at a WeWork, it used to be reminiscent of something that I knew of, but I could not put my finger on. Open office plan, the communal spaces, free drinks, people interacting, events, etc., etc. So everything was reminiscent of something, and I could not put a finger to it back then, but now I know that WeWork actually resembles a neo-hippie commune where community takes precedence over everything else. Now, it's not like I wanted to find out about this aspect of WeWork, but when the entire news started coming out about WeWork's downfall, the problems, not the right kind of management practices, etc., I was reading up, decided to dig deeper, and that is when I realized that this entire neo-hippie commune kind of concept is not just a design thing. It's not just something that they are doing for business purposes. It's also what the founders are all about. So that's the origin story of WeWork, which is what I'm going to narrate to you quickly. Now, the founders, or the original founders of WeWork, are Adam Neuman and Miguel McKelvey. Adam Neuman grew up in what is called a kibbutz in Israel. Kibbutz are co-living communes where people live together, they do a lot of things together. The lifestyle is of a group of people, a community of people working together and living together. In fact, 4% of Israel's population, according to Tourism Israel's website, accept that they actually grew up in a commune while they were kids. So that's how important, or that's how prevalent kibbutz are in Israel. If you look at Miguel McKelvey's story, that's also pretty similar. He grew up with 6 other kids in a 5-mother commune in a place called Eugene in Oregon in the United States. Now, when these 2 young men met in New York, the biggest bonding point for both of them was life in a commune. They were narrating stories about their experiences in the commune as kids, etc. And that's when they came up with the idea, why not build a commune for work? And if you listen to one of the interviews that Adam has done, not just one, in many interviews he said that they've actually built systems where people are forced to help each other. So the entire idea is that people actually work in a community and they are supposed to help each other. That's how we grow faster. Now, I'm not trying to talk about the other aspects of WeWork, about their bad management practices, Adam Neuman's ethics, etc., because this video is only focused on the stories or storytelling of WeWork. So that's the origin story. The origin story of WeWork is that it actually came from an idea of co-living communes, which they tried to apply for work. So both the founders were actually trying to build a commune for work, and I think they were fairly successful at that as well. I have heard that the brand is reworking or sort of working back its way to respectability. So probably it will continue to be the largest commune for work in the world. And in that sense, Adam Neuman is not wrong when he says that WeWork is an offline social network, because it is. He also says that it's the first and the biggest offline social network, which I don't quite agree with. But yes, it is an offline social network. So that's the origin story. That's how WeWork evolved. That's the concept of the company. Now, this particular story also has become a part of WeWork's folklore. Now, the WeWork's management used to use this story in onboarding presentations, in investor pitch decks, in PR, when Adam was doing interviews with publications, etc., etc. Because I think at a certain level, Adam Neuman understood that having a good origin story actually helps you connect better with people, whether it is the general population, investors, or it is with existing and potential employees. So he used to narrate the origin story as many times as he could. And the same thing also became a part of onboarding programs, manuals, etc., etc. at WeWork. Now, WeWork is not the only one who does that. WeWork is one of the companies which has been able to use its origin story as a marketing asset. The other company which uses its origin story really well is Airbnb. Airbnb, I think, uses all kinds of storytelling really well. But if you listen to Brian Chesky, he will always say, Airbnb, we were broke designers in San Francisco. We didn't have money to make rent. Then a design conference came to town and we thought, why not put an airbed in our living room? And we put it up online. People came and stayed with us. And that's how we understood that we were on to something. And we started building Airbnb around trust. Now, this is an interesting origin story. It helps him in interviews. It helps him connect with newer employees, because newer employees who see Airbnb as this mega company with multinational presence and also staff in different countries, they probably don't realize where the company came from. So Brian Chesky keeps reminding people of the origin story so that people realize how the company started and they feel a part of that unique small experiment in the living room of an apartment in San Francisco. So that's how powerful an origin story is. Now the question is that, do origin stories happen on their own or are they created? I think the answer lies somewhere in between. The origin story has to be a real one. It has to be factual. So I don't think it can be created, but definitely it is something that you need to institutionalize. So you need to figure out which is the best origin story and you need to institutionalize it. So I work with a lot of startup founders, and one of the things I've realized is that it is difficult for startup founders to identify the moment where the company originated or how it all started. Because sometimes it's not a single moment in time. It probably happened over a period of a few years, and that makes it difficult for them to figure out what is their origin story. I have a simple suggestion for that. What you need to do is to sit down with your team, write down all the instances which led to the formation of the company or led to the founding team coming together to form that particular company. And look at the one which is the most interesting, the most impactful, and start narrating it to people. So maybe you can narrate 2 or 3 different origin stories in the beginning, and depending on how people react and which one really catches the eye, catches the fancy of your audience, that's something that you need to institutionalize. So Airbnb, again, as a case in point. Airbnb's origin story is fairly simple and straightforward, but it is not necessarily how it exactly happened. Because Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky were working on many different startup ideas in their apartment or when they were living together in San Francisco. It just so happened that this idea stuck and they actually kept working on it, and that's how they were able to build Airbnb as we know it. So they've also institutionalized this particular story and this particular instance because that's the most interesting story that they want to narrate. So you probably have 5, 6, 7, I don't know, different moments in time, different anecdotes which make up for an origin story, but maybe you can institutionalize one of them. Doesn't mean that you can't use the other instances, but you can use them depending on the context, depending on the situation. So that's how interesting origin stories are. That's it from me in this video, but before I go, let me tell you, the Storyco is a storytelling coaching and training firm. We help CEOs, executives, founders and also companies to use the power of storytelling to communicate better with their audiences. We think that we help people make their communication simple, clear, and compelling. And the most important thing that I really enjoy the most is helping people and businesses add meaning to their message. And I really believe that nothing communicates meaning quite like stories do. So if you have any questions about communication, business storytelling, etc., please feel free to ask me in comments. Me or one of my team members will respond to your comment as soon as we can. That's it from me in this video. I'll see you in the next one pretty soon. Till then, story on.